are welcome to sequence 4 of session 3. I am your life skills class 1 teacher. Today, we shall be looking at the 5 W's and H of communication. In this sequence, you will learn about the different W's and H of communication, and also how and when to use them in communication. Relax and enjoy the sequence. Before we continue, I want you to answer the following questions based on your previous knowledge. Answer true or false. Question 1. Communication is the process of sending information from one person to another. Communication is the process of sending information from one person to another. True or false? Question 2. Communication seeks to answer questions for the 5 W's and H. Communication seeks to answer questions for the 5 W's and H. True or false? And now, let us give the correct answers. Remember, the instruction requires you to answer true or false. And the correct answer for question 1 is, I'll take the question all over. Communication is a process of sending information from one person to another. And the correct answer is true. Good. 2. Communication seeks to answer questions for the 5 W's and H. And the correct answer is true. Very good. And now, in this sequence, on the 5 W's and H of communication, we shall be looking at who, where, what, when, why, and how. Therefore, dear learner, at the end of this sequence, you should be able to 1. List the 5 W's and H of communication. 2. Know when to use the different W's and H of communication. And 3. Apply the 5 W's and H in your day-to-day communication with your parents, brothers, and friends. The 5 W's of communication. The 5 W's of communication are 5 words that begin with the letter W. The 5 W's of communication are 5 words that begin with the letter W. We use the 5 W's when we want our communication to be effective. That is, making sure that the message gets to the other person. Remember, the 5 W's have to do with who, where, what, when, and why. So, we will now begin by looking at the 5 W's of communication. And the first is who. Who in communication means the other person involved in the process of communication. Remember, we defined communication in the previous sequence as the process of sending out information or ideas from one person to another. Thus, the who in communication here is the other person you are communicating with. 2. Where. Where in communication refers to the place where the communication will take place or where the event took place in the past. Where here could be in the house, that is the place, could be in the house, in the church, in the playground, on the road, in the farm, and even in the market. So, where in communication seeks to answer questions that have to do with the venue or the location of the communication. The next is what. What? What in communication is the purpose or the reason for the communication. What here means the purpose or the reason for the communication. Better still, what here means the message that you want to communicate. For example, what is the message you want to communicate to your parents? Is it concerning your upcoming birthday? Or is it about how you passed your final examinations? So, what has to do with the reason or the purpose for the communication. That is the message you want to communicate to another person. The next is when. When in communication signifies the time that the event took place or the time the event or communication will take place. I repeat. When in communication refers to the time that the event took place or the time the event or the communication will take place in the future. For example, you have an upcoming birthday party and your friend seeks to find out the time the party will begin. So, your friend can ask you, when will the party begin? And definitely you have to give a response to say that the party will begin by 1 p.m. or the party will begin in the evening. So when in communication means the time that the communication will take place or the time that the event took place in the past. Why? The next is why. This means the importance or the relevance of what you want to communicate to the other person. Why in communication means the importance or the relevance of what you want to communicate to the other person. For example, why is it that you have a birthday party and you decide to invite Peter and not Mary? Why do you choose Peter over Mary to attend the party? Or better still, why again will mean the reason behind why you are required to communicate, which is to say that the communication you intend to engage in, how relevant is that communication to you, or how relevant is it to the other person. Now, after examining the 5 W's of communication, let us now move to the H of communication. H in communication stands for how. I repeat, H in communication stands for how. And how refers to the entire process of communication. Once again, how refers to the entire process of communication. Some of the questions you can ask yourself when you have to do with the H of communication include, but not limited to: 1. How am I going to communicate? 2. How am I going to handle difficult questions? And 3. How did I arrive at a particular decision or idea? Remember, dear learner, H in communication stands for how, which explains the entire process of communication. At this point, after understanding the 5 W's and H of communication, I now want you to engage in activity 2. And the instruction is: identify the correct answer from the list below. Identify the correct answer from the list below. Question 1. One of the 5 W's of communication is dash. One of the 5 W's of communication is dash. A. Weather. B. Water. C. What? Question 2. The H in communication stands for dash. The H in communication stands for dash. A. Hi. B. How. C. Hope. Question 3. The 5 W's of communication are dash. The 5 W's of communication are dash. A. What, when, where, why, and who. B. Water, wall, weight, wine, and weather. Now, join me as we answer the questions. Remember, the instruction requires you to identify the correct answer from the list below. And the correct answer for question 1 is, I'll take the question all over. One of the 5 W's of communication is dash. And the correct answer is what? Great. I'm impressed. 2. The H in communication stands for dash. The H in communication stands for dash, and the correct answer is how. Very good. 3. The 5 W's of communication are, and the correct answer is what, when, where, why, and who. Excellent. To conclude, in this lesson, you have learned about the 5 W's and H of communication. As such, the 5 W's and H of communication guide the smooth flow of communication from one person to another. And the 5 W's and H that we have so far reviewed are who, where, what, when, and why. And an H that stands for how. Well done, dear learner. You have successfully completed this sequence. Relax and get ready for the next sequence.